Are you satisfied with your understanding of sustainability? If you are not, imagine a journey together, a pluralistic one, with academia, innovators, startups, NGOs, all looking for solutions to the greatest challenge of our time. My name is Samuele Tini, and this is the Sustainability Journey. Welcome to another episode, and today we are going to discuss the world of impact investing, B Corp, and microfinance. And we do it with Xavier Pierluca, who is the co-founder and managing partner of Enabling Qapital. Thank you so much, Xavier, for being here.
Thank you, Samuele. It's very nice to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. I'm very happy to participate and look forward to the conversation.
Your work, the work you are doing, is really bringing impact, especially in emerging market and especially in Africa, in critical areas. But before that, as usual, we want to know, who is Xavier? What is your sustainability journey?
I was born and raised in Lyon, France, and I would say lucky to be born in a relatively well-off family. My dad was a doctor, but I was lucky as well to an extent to live actually when I was fairly young in a disenfranchised neighborhood. So I was exposed at a fairly early stage in my life, to the world of difference, and I was basically friends with kids and at school with kids, that were coming mainly from foreign countries, North Africa for the greatest majority, and living in a fairly, what I would call a blue-collar neighborhood or disenfranchised neighborhood. So this, exposed me at a very early stage, when I was 6 years old, to the diversity of the world at home, to start with, and the diversity of, socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds also made me realize over time, that I was on one hand lucky, right, and on the other hand, that maybe, I could use the luck, that was granted to me to make a difference or to improve at least the way things were. And I think this experience, unwanted, unwarranted, it was just what it is. I didn't choose. I think made me who I am today as well, in what relates to sustainability, and the professional choices that I've made over my professional career. As a result, if you'd like, I studied, at university. I engaged, in traditional consulting and investment banking, working for large, firms like Deloitte Consulting or Ernst & Young Corporate Finance, and decided that I really wanted to use these skills, to make a difference and to apply it to the economic development. I joined microfinance actually and the movement in 1994 or 5. I have issues with dates, and I started working at the time with Deutsche Bank in New York. So I was on Wall Street, 60 Wall Street at the time. I was lucky enough to be recruited in a team that was operating under the marketing division and, if you like, the not-for-profit division of Deutsche Bank, which had a small arm that was managing microfinance funds and impact investing funds. And I was recruited by a gentleman called Assad Mahmoud, who was, I would say, a true pioneer in impact investing, and led the movement that no one really believed in at the time, right? My friends called me crazy, and many people in my family as well. Why, would you deviate from a path, that could lead to financial success, for example, for something that is fairly uncertain and that looks like is going nowhere? Why are you lending money, to poor farmers or micro entrepreneurs in Mexico, in Africa, or in Kyrgyzstan? Why don't you stick to traditional consulting? And well, I didn't know at the time it was going to become what it is today. So it's now, I would say, a true industry or sector, which has grown tremendously, which has gained, popularity, which has gained, which is professionally managed by many different organizations across the world as well, and asset management firms also. And then subsequently, then I had the career working on the private debt and private equity side, if you'd like, of what is today called impact investing, in different sectors, starting with financial inclusion, which is the mother of all, if you'd like, or microfinance, the mother of impact investing, and then worked to access to energy for the lighting and also access to energy for cooking more recently. Enabling Qapital is a company we founded now 3 years ago, and we are 55 people across several regions. That's a bit about me.
And it's a big journey. I can see why you shifted, and then, I mean, the people are calling you crazy at the beginning, but you were a pioneer, and now you are really, with Enabling Qapital, you're really bringing this social dimension and also in the impact investing and transforming lives. And you have mentioned it. You are now 55 people. You are all over the world. So we want to know a bit more. What is Enabling Qapital? Which problem are you trying to solve?
We started Enabling Qapital now with a vision, and the vision is it's very simple. It's move money to meaning, or M cube, if you like. So we really like, that small, tagline that defines very precisely what we do. We are an intermediary, right, that is moving capital from institutional investors, family offices, high net worth individuals, foundations, to investing in companies that are providing an essential good and service to the low income, lower middle income segment of the population, primarily in emerging markets. So from that perspective, if you'd like, we don't have a very specific at Enabling Qapital when we started sector focus. We don't choose to work only in microfinance or only in energy or potentially only in healthcare and education. We realize, that we have a fairly interesting and tangible track record, if you like, in asset management, advisory, and impact investing. But we realize as well that there is a lot to learn. There is a lot, to do. And as a result, we structured Enabling Qapital as a platform, meaning that we're very happy, and we are looking forward to joint ventures, partnerships, of different sorts in order to achieve the purpose of moving money to meaning. The vision at the end of the day of EQ, right, or which I think is the vision of many impact investors, it just depends the way you articulate it, is that we want, a world, we have a vision where we want to embrace the planet and empower people at the end of the day, right? And in order to achieve that vision, basically we move money to meaning. That's EQ.
It's a really interesting proposition and the work, and we will discuss also why you have gone to the B Corp, also to an extent to the B Corp certification. But before that, as usual, we want to discuss something that is important. You said you're an intermediary, and then you are working, especially with many actors, really to enable and putting money into meaning, which is, I think, a very nice tagline. And I want you to discuss a bit, which is the impact that Enabling Qapital has had in the areas where you operate. If you can share with us some success stories of business individual that have benefited from your investment.
I mean, I will speak about Enabling Qapital, but also about the journey in impact investing, because Enabling Qapital is fairly young as a company, but as managing partners, we have been in that space for close to 20 years now, right? So in working in different organizations that still operate, right, and successfully in the sector, and we're very happy about that. So I will speak just, about a few examples, but if you think about microfinance now, when it started, for example, and I'm speaking now about the organizations themselves, I'm going to take an example in Bolivia. I remember, basically loan officers lending to micro entrepreneurs across wooden table, right? Operating as not-for-profit organizations 20 years back in La Paz, or in the outskirts of La Paz in Bolivia. And with professionalism, with more investments coming from funds, managed or advised by organizations like Enabling Qapital. These not-for-profit organizations, led primarily by women to start with, by the way, a very interesting movement in Bolivia, became, full-fledged banking institutions, right? Regulated banks. Started, with one branch or, one small subsidiary, and lending, to just a few people in one given neighborhood, to now covering an entire country with over 150 branches, and using technology, right? This use of technology, software and hardware as well, thanks to mobile phones, has basically facilitated, and helped, the furthering the outreach of credit to micro entrepreneurs on one hand, but also making it more affordable as well. Credits that were extremely costly to start with when everything, was operated on a brick and mortar approach at a very small scale, is now extremely affordable, and in some cases, in many countries, at par with what you can access, if you're a small and medium enterprise in developed markets. So that's, quite a huge achievement and success. But what's, I think, maybe your question was also, what about the people, right? Directly the beneficiaries. And the beneficiaries, if you like, the same is true, right? I mean, in Bolivia or Kenya or Kyrgyzstan or India, which are countries where we have operated, we've seen, micro entrepreneurs as we were going to board meetings, in institutions where we had invested and visiting them year after year, progress from, if you'd like, a small, cart, a food cart, in the street, to building, restaurants and then chains of restaurants, and facilitating now food delivery at the doorstep, of their clients, and improving, on their services, improving as well, the way they engage with their employees. Also offering formal employment, right, in their communities. So we have seen now, and this is the most, I would say, the thing that I think we all cherish the most in the sector, with our own eyes, the progression of a set of people, of individuals, right, from poverty or from, very dire, if you like, living conditions, to, a position in society where they can afford to own a house, to put their kids to school, right, to put light as well, turn on the lights. So this is for microfinance, but for access to energy, it's even more immediate, than that. I mean, working in access to lighting and cooking. When you come, in a house in Kenya, where you live, Samuele, you install, right, a solar home system, or you see the installation of a solar home system in a family that never had access to electricity, and you offer, the children the chance of watching a cartoon for even 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, right? The impact is immediate, right? That the housewife, right, can cook a meal, right, without generating toxic fume inside the house as well, and damaging her health and the health of her children, is an immediate impact as well, right? So this is what impact investing is all about, right? And this is what EQ strives to achieve.
A question that is linked: how do you choose, and how do you measure, the companies, and then and the social and environmental impact that they have?
So that's a very important question, right? And I think this is what distinguishes impact investing from ESG, right? Or generally speaking, when we speak about ESG, which excludes, activities that are damaging to the environment or to the health of people or to society at large. Impact investing, the key concept behind it is intentionality. First of all, we are intentional about our investments. So we don't structure a fund out of thin air, right? We go and currently Enabling Qapital manages 2 funds, or advises 2 funds. In reality, we're not a manager. We advise a management firm that invests these funds. And so we advise the Enabling Microfinance Fund, right, in microfinance, and we advise the Partner of Africa Fund. And both these funds have very specific intention. The Enabling Microfinance Fund, its intention is to facilitate access to credits, and financial services to the low-income and lower-income segments. So that's the purpose, the key purpose of that fund. And the Spark Plus Africa Fund wants to facilitate access to the population in Sub-Saharan Africa to clean cooking solutions. And there are, of course, many different ways and mechanisms to do that, but hopefully we can speak about later on. But intentionality is at the core of what we do at EQ, and generally speaking in the impact investing movement. So it means that once we have defined, an intention, then we design and structure the fund and the strategy of the fund to achieve that purpose. So in some cases, it can be a plain vanilla structure of fund, very simple, like an Enabling Microfinance Fund. In some other cases, you need, the support of public and private capital to achieve your purpose. And this is what's called blended finance, if you like, using, small amount of public money in order to raise private money to achieve your purpose. So each and every fund, if you like, is designed with that purpose. And then we create purposefully what is called the theory of change as well. If you want to think through that, it's basically, what do we need? And I mean, why do we want to achieve a purpose? What do we need in terms of input to achieve that purpose? what are we going to implement to achieve that purpose, and then how are we going to measure that purpose, right? Which indicators are we going to select? So this is what we do with the TOC, our theory of change. And once we have set our theory of change, we have a very robust and tested investment process to invest in emerging markets, generally speaking, and more specifically in impact investing and companies that provide this access to essential goods and services to the low-income population. And so we have several elements on top of just quantitative and qualitative analysis, which is done by all, if you like, investors. We look at environmental and social impact and risk. So we assess that risk, we scale and rate that risk, and we define what is called an environmental and social action plan for each and every company in which we invest, for example, with the Spark Plus Africa Fund. So it means that the company might work, and we might provide technical assistance to improve on operations, a strategic, if you like, objective. We also define with the organization in which we invest on the basis of its overarching objective for the fund or purpose, as I described it, indicators that we will track over the life of our investment, and target objectives for each and every indicator, ideally. And then we measure on a monthly or quarterly basis our progress, so financial progress on one end, and then impact progress on the basis of the indicators that we are collecting information for. And we report basically these measurements, these metrics to our investors, and aggregate them to see if at the fund level we are achieving the purpose of the vehicle that we started initially. So it's a journey again of 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, depending on the type of instrument and investment that you engage with to achieve a given purpose.
Thank you also for explaining, a complex structure very clearly to our audience. I think it's really a way to enable transformation, especially in critical areas. And I want to go deeper a bit on one of the funds, especially the Spark Plus Africa Fund. You are co-managing with the Clean Cooking Alliance. So can you tell more about the impact and how you are spearheading the promotion of clean cooking in Africa?
So first of all, before I engage in what we do and how we do it, I think the why clean cooking, I think, is important, right? Clean cooking is actually a topic that is lacking, I would say, traction, and is lacking, interest, generally speaking, in economic development and in impact investing, and has been for decades now, unfortunately. There are more people that die annually from clean cooking and what we call household indoor pollution, if you like, so lack of access to clean cooking, but there are people that die from AIDS and malaria combined globally, right? We're speaking of 4 million deaths a year that are directly or indirectly linked to cooking as a result, or traditional forms of cooking. 3 billion people on Earth cook, with traditional cooking methods. What that means is that, they cook on freestone fires. They cook, mainly with wood that they collect or cut, charcoal as well. And they cook, in many cases, indoor as well. So you can imagine, it's impacting primarily women and young children that are, in most traditional societies, engaged with the cooking of the meal for the family. This concept deserves our attention, and as a result, right, at Enabling Qapital, we realize that we don't know it all, right? So we partnered with the Clean Cooking Alliance, and with my co-investment director Peter George, who is now operating and managing the fund alongside myself, in Enabling Qapital and advising on it, in order to better understand the issue and better, structure and design the strategy in order to basically achieve our purpose, in what relates to furthering access to clean cooking. So the fund is a blended finance vehicle. It's a public-private partnership. We are benefiting, from the support of the European Commission as well as the African Development Bank. which are providing catalytic funding and first loss funding, if you like, to the fund. We are working as well with several development finance institutions from Belgium, from Denmark, for example, and several pension funds from Switzerland and foundations as well. All of this is layered, if you like. It's like a cake, if you want to think about it. At the bottom, you have the crust, and then you add layers of different flavors, of course, in your cake. And so this is why it's called blended finance, if you like. And the bottom part of the cake, is basically what supports it all, as you know, right? As we all know when we cook. And so this is exactly what blended finance is about. At the end of the day, the bottom part of your fund, which is the public money that you're utilizing to attract private capital, is supporting the entire structure. So that's Spark Plus Fund, if you like. In what relates to the strategy, we said, it's a 7-year fund. It's, as I indicated, it's a sector that has not been given the attention it deserves, in impact investing. So we are targeting over 7 years, deploying capital in the form of long-term, if you like, equity or quasi-equity, and short-term, access to debt for inventory, for working capital as well. The fund works with companies that operate with many different types of fuel. So we look at bioethanol, biogas. We look at charcoal as well with improved cook stove, in order to reduce the charcoal intake or the wood intake, for families to cook. And these are, improved cook stove that have also very low, if you like, or much lower emission of toxic fumes, or gas for the families, that are also, if you like, less damaging for the environment also, and as a result have a positive impact on CO2. We can work as well with LPG, which is a byproduct, of course, of fossil fuel, but an interesting transition fuel, in many sub-Saharan countries, which can have access to LPG at relatively affordable prices, like it can be the case in Nigeria, which is an oil-producing country. It's always difficult to achieve the best, right? So you need to balance vis-a-vis the worst sometimes and the best available solution, for the moment. So LPG is considered a transition fuel, but we work with it. And for just a percentage of the fund, that is 40%. We work with solar as well, and electric pressure cookers, companies that are designing these models. And we invest to ensure, that families in Sub-Saharan Africa can have access to more, modern form of cooking, and limit the damage on health, as I indicated, and limit the damage on the environment. These are the key aspects, if you like, that we are focusing our attention on when it comes to impact for Spark Plus.
And thank you so much for this description. And it's a problem that I see also every day when I walk in communities and in houses. And it's something that many companies are trying to solve, and funds like yours are helping them to scale and solve this critical issue. I want to ask now a question about your company. Why you are an impact investing, you are working on this space, but you wanted to go a step further, and you certified as a B Corp. So why going for the B Corp certification? How these certifications impacted your operation? How it is improved? So, what was the rationale behind it?
The B Corp certification for us is very important, but it's a little bit the other way around, right? As I indicated to you, we started basically enabling capital with that vision, that I indicated, moving money, to meaning. That's the mission of enabling capital. We started, with that concept of being a platform for impact investing and partnering, with others. But we started as well, with a very unique way of managing an organization and setting the governance structure for enabling capital. So we are today 5 managing partners that are co-founders, if you like, and managing partners and co-managing partners of enabling capital. We operate as a management board. It means, that very much like the Swiss Confederation, if you want to think, of where we are based, Switzerland originally, we operate with an executive board, so which requires, a consensual approach as well to decision making, and is the structure of governance that is prone and facilitates debates, if you like, and discussion in order to reach, a consensus. So that was quite important for us. And we designed a governance structure and a management approach that is transparent also. So transparent in the sense that the decision making at the partner level or managing partner level, we share, if you'd like, not only the decisions that we have taken, but we share the path to decision making as well. So we share, with the team the concepts that we are discussing. We share, the budget. We have financial transparency. We share as well, if you like, the constraints that we are facing in achieving a purpose, and what has led, to take a decision, and why we took that decision, and how we will implement on that decision and report actually on the decision vis-a-vis a given objective. We also take into consideration twice a year in a whole hands meeting, and then in more regional, if you like, meetings, the views, the opinions of the regional managers and teams when it comes to the strategy and the way we operate. We have, to achieve that purpose as well, we have designed a set of tools and policies, processes that are, if you like, not only very well crafted, but that are disseminated across the company. And we apply, the same rules to us managing partners, and then the rules we apply to, if you like, any employee of the organization. So the concept as well, of moving money to meaning is deeply embedded in our, which is our mission statement, is embedded in our articles of association, right, in our shareholder agreement that we have as well with our institutional investor. And as a result, it was, only sensical for us to become, if you'd like, a big corporation, right? I mean, big corporations strive for transparency, proper, governance as well, proper treatment of all stakeholders, not only shareholders, which is exactly, the approach we are taking. We are accountable vis-a-vis our investors, vis-a-vis our employees, vis-a-vis our partners, internally and externally as well. We are transparent, vis-a-vis all of these stakeholders as well. So it is logical for us to join the Big Corp movement from that perspective. So we are now, being a Big Corp as well, and having to go through a set, we understand, further, if you'd like, audit and engagement, with the Big Corp movement, is also forcing us and will force us to keep in check, with what we have set for ourselves. So, and it's not such a bad thing, I mean, as human beings, we tend to deviate from rules, when we can. I have stopped making promises to myself, on January 1st of every year, right? I mean, I know quite often I don't respect them. So it's why, it's always kind of good, to have a third party keeping you in check and making sure that you are actually fulfilling your promises.
Thank you so much for this explanation also of the work and how, the B Corp certification is keeping people in check and really working on improving the company. So it's a process rather than an arrival. And the B Corp certification, it's really something that, especially with the new standards coming up, it will also help improve even more the standards. We are going towards the end of the episode because I know we have discussed a lot, but I'm really grateful. And I want to ask a bit about the way forward for EQ, for enabling capital, for EQ, as we can say. So you are in the process of becoming a regulated asset manager. You have a big team now that is in several continents. So which is the way forward for EQ?
Well, the way forward for EQ is to continue to grow basically the strategies and the funds that we currently manage on one hand, right? And as usual, it's easy to kickstart a project, but you need to maintain it, you need to monitor it, you need to nurture it as well. So, making sure that we keep doing a good work, basically in the space of financial inclusion and access to clean cooking with the Spark Plus Africa Fund. This is our main focus. We are focusing, as you indicated, about the regulation aspect, engaging with FINMA in order to become a regulated asset manager. We are currently operating as an advisor. basically. It is a certification and regulation that is important for us. We now have assets under management that are above, I think, $550 million. And so as a result, if you like, of this base, it is important for us to become our own master, if you like, when it comes to asset management. We are currently, again, depending on the support of external parties or internal parties, because the asset manager of our fund, or what we call the alternative investment fund manager, to be precise, is our institutional shareholder, Woodman Asset Management. So that's the path we are taking. And then we are working on developing new products. It can be listed on one hand. We are working in developing products, that with other instruments, such as equity, which we are doing only to an extent currently with the Partner of Africa Fund. And we are starting to look as well at other sectors, either on a standalone basis, in tandem, in partnership with other entities, to develop, if you like, vehicles, impact vehicles, that will always, basically focus on providing essential good and service to the low income and the lower middle income, right? With a positive aspect on the planet. So climate change is also a topic that is of interest to us. I mean, the Spark Plus Fund is actually as an overarching goal CO2 emission reduction, for example. So, and we are working as well on structuring, funds that have a positive impact on climate. That's more or less what it is. I mean, size is not what matters the most. It's reaching economies of scale for us is allowing us to generate enough revenues to ensure sustainability. This is important. And to innovate, to keep pushing the limits as well in the impact investing sector.
And thank you for this perspective and really ambitious objectives that you have set for yourself and your team on enabling capital. And the listeners, they are all over the world and they're listening to you, and many of them, they are businesses or individual or organization that maybe they want to look to get involved in impact investing, they are involved in the sector, or they want to make their investment more social, more environmental responsible. They want to respond to this, our planetary crisis. What is the advice that Xavier would give to them?
You would have asked this question 10 years ago. I would have told you, if you really want to do impact investing, so quit your job, in investment banking, in consulting, in engineering, and join, the movement, structure funds, or go create companies, on the ground. This is still valid, right? But I think you can change and you can do impact investing from within, right? You can be an intrapreneur in the companies where you currently work. You can, and there is a movement, right? I see the younger generations, they are very adamant and active and pushing, the envelope in order to make sure that they're executives and the board and the management in companies where they work, right, are looking to basically improve their operations, their standards when it comes to sustainability, making sure that, the companies they work with are not damaging the environment as well, or are having a positive impact that could be social, environmental, or economic. You can also work from within, right? If the desire to improve planet and people is within you, you can conduct that change, and you can be a change for conduct within the organizations that you currently work with. If you want to touch impact investing more rapidly, of course, there are opportunities, and now they are all over the world. I mean, you are based yourself, Samuele, in Kenya. I am based in Switzerland. We have a team in Kyrgyzstan, in India, in Pakistan, in Ecuador. There are opportunities all over the world, and across sectors. Impact investing is not, microfinance. Impact investing is not clean cooking. Impact investing is everything. It's healthcare. It's improving the way you do engineering. It's improving the way you do architecture, building, cleaner and safer houses, as well, and less damaging for the environment. It's sustainable mining. This is, at the end of the day, I think the direction that it's taking, and it's very exciting, right? Something that was a joke 20 years ago is now becoming a standard. So we're very excited about that.
And thank you so much for this episode and for the great insight that you have given us, and I'm sure we want to see where Enabling Qapital is going. So it was a real pleasure and a real honor having you. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Samuele, for the opportunity. Thanks a lot for your time. And I look forward, to continuing the conversation with you outside of the podcast as well. And I wish the sustainability journey in your podcast a long life and an increased audience, throughout the years.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Xavier. Are you satisfied after this wonderful episode? Let's continue together our sustainability journey.